Okay, I'll start. So this Parsha obviously has a lot of instruction, a lot of commands and so on, but one I want to focus on is the original command God gives to Noach to build the Teva. Okay, so Breshit Vav Yudaled Tet Vav Tet Zayin, God says, Aseh lecha Teva atzei gofer, kinim ta'aseh ta'teva, make this Teva out of some kind of, I don't know what gofer wood is, but kinim ta'aseh ta'teva, sort of sections. V'chafarta ota mibayit u'michutz ba'kofer, and put tar or pitch, insulate it inside and out. V'zeh asher ta'aseh ota, and this is how you have to make it, shalosh me'ot ama, orech ha'teva, 300 length. 50 ama rochbo, 50 amot wide, ushloshim ama komata, and 30 high. Tzoar ta'aseh le'teva ve'el ama techalena milmala. You have to make some kind of window, some kind of skylight, about an ama's worth away from the roof. Upetach ha'teva betzida tasim, and make an opening on the side. Tachtiim shniim ushloshim ta'aseh, make some kind of floors, first floor, second floor, third floor, and so on. That's cool. And as you know, the Torah is a book of education. So lucky for us, the next time you think of making a teva to save the world before a flood, the Torah's got you covered. You have explicit blueprints, exactly the right size, exactly the right shape, exactly the way it's supposed to look. Seriously, we don't need instructions on how to build a teva. I got to tell you, the Parsha is long enough without spending 3 psukim on this measure and this measure and this high and this wide. Oh, there's a window here and a petach there. I got to tell you, who cares? So my question that I want to start with is, why does it God give such specific directions? Did Noach have to know how to build it? Sure. Did we have to know how Noach built it? It never comes up again. So I think the answer is no. So why do we have recorded in the Torah such verbosity when it comes to how wide, how high, how long? Okay, that's like the question I want to ask. There's a theory that I read that if you look at the next Shmot Kaf Hey Yud, okay, this is Truma, where God is describing how to build the different kelim of the Mishkan. Ve'asu aron atzei shitim, make the aron out of this type of wood. Amatayim v'chetzi orko, ve'ama v'chetzi rochbo, ve'ama v'chetzi komato. Hey, that's cool, says the article that I read, which doesn't happen often, but I did read this one. There's no doubt, he says, that the detail of the teva, of this container, this box, is brilliantly cross-referenced with the same type of long, wide, and high of the measurements of another teva, of another box, the aron. And he made some kind of reasons why they would be connected, why it would be important to make a connection between the teva that Noach built and the teva that Moshe built, and it was interesting. Do you know how much detail there is in the description of the Mishkan, and for that matter, the Korbanot? Let's just go with a lot. I mean, Parsha after Parsha. Truma, Tetzaveh, Vayakel, Pekudei, Vayikra, Tzav. I don't want to say it's boring, but I just did. There's a lot of detail. And you have to ask a similar question on a grander scale. Why do we care? Tell it to the Kohanim. Are we ever going to build our Mishkan? But are we going to build a Mishkan again? Come on. I'm not sure Shlomo followed those instructions anyway when he built his. And an answer is given because unique to korbanot and a temple is that it's not unique to Jews. You want to talk about Shabbat? That's cool. Kashrut? Okay. Tuma and Tara? Only God could make that up. But temples and sacrificial rites? That's old news. So what did God have to ensure when he gave Jews his temple and his korbanot? He had to make it uniquely different. There had to be a God stamp on it. So you know why there are so many intricate details and minutia to describe Dafka, the korbanot, and the Mishkan? Because it had to be uniquely godly. So the problem is, I totally get why we hear the Aron is this wide and this long and this high. Because that fits into the greater context of all the instructions of the Mishkan. Not so with the Teva. Noach wasn't even Jewish. It's not a frum thing. Every house has mezuzah, besari and chalavi plates, and a Teva in the back. So the answer that, it's to parallel, I didn't find that satisfying. So then I looked back at these 3 psukim and something jumped out at me. Because within the description, there's a word that's repeated multiple times. A root that's repeated. Do you see it in Noach? In Yodaled, Tetvav, and Tetzayin? In 3 psukim, what root is repeated multiple times? Aseh. And how many times? 5. It's big. I highlighted it just to make sure. There's 2 in the first, 1 in the second, and 2 in the third. It's like I counted them. 3s are a pattern. 5 is an overwhelming theme. So maybe, just maybe, when God is describing the Teva, he wants us to focus on the asiyah of the Teva. Every detail that he gives to Noach is preempted with, to aseh it this way, aseh it this way, so that we hear it permeating this text 5 times. Then you say, okay, why do we want to know that there's an underlying theme of aseh? The next source, Breshit Bet, Aleph Bet, and Gimel. Vayachulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzva'am. Vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher. Editor's inflection. Asa. Vayishpot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher. Asa. Vayivarach Elohim et yom hashvi v'akedesh oto kivosh bam mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. And now suddenly, if you want to make a cross-reference, and you want to say, what is God hinting to? What does he want us to do when we hear the 5 assays of Noach? You don't jump all the way to Shmot. There's no context. There's no relationship. There's no natural connection. You go back just 1 parsha, just a couple of prakim, and you see that same word, that same root, repeated a significant 3 times. And then you say, so why does God want us to make a connection between the asiyah of the world and the asiyah of the Teva? And I think the one answer is, you ever cook something badly? Okay, I certainly have. Okay, which is why I don't really do it anymore. There are better people that do it much better than I. I'll clean up afterwards. But once I made brownies, I was in like that baking stage. Nothing to do. What do? Use up your parents' ingredients. And I put in a cup of baking powder instead of a tablespoon of baking powder because to me, hey, it looked the same. And I wondered why all the brownies had come out all over the oven. I said, what? I followed the recipe. My mother said, let's go through it. I said, oh, you never use a cup of baking powder. It's like your science volcano experiments. And I had to clean it up because that's how you learn. And I had to shave off all the burnt on brownie in the oven. And I had to wash all the dishes. But me being me, I got back on the brownie horse and tried it again. Same kitchen, same pots, same recipe, not the same mistake. They were pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. Noach is about to get on this teva. And God's going to wash away the world. He's going to do a little dishes. He's going to say the first recipe didn't work. It boiled over. There was chamas. There was hashchata. So I got to wash all the dishes again. You get on the boat while I do a deep clean. And then come out and try the world again. But God did not want Noach to believe he was in the same kitchen with the same dishes and the same recipe. What God wanted Noach to understand that what he was doing was not trying to start something anew, but was starting something that was new. Noach wasn't merely taking the previous world and trying to do it better the second time. He was allowed to understand that what he was doing was starting fresh, a different kitchen, a different set of dishes, and a totally different recipe. God says, build the teva like I built the world the first time. It was totally new. It hadn't been there, and now it is. When you get off that teva, and I tell you to pru or vu umilu et haaretz, it might sound like the same recipe that I told Adam and Chava, but you get to start it all anew. Yours is a creation in its own right. So as long as Noach is building the teva with the same asiyah focus that God built the world, the message is clear to Noach. He's not merely taking over where the previous world left off. He is starting a new world again. He is the new Adam Harishon. Okay? Okay. Put that aside for now, because this week is also Rosh Chodesh, Wednesday and Thursday. Okay? And I want to do with you a little, perhaps, meaningfulness of Rosh Chodesh. Special breakfast, Hallel. You might wear a white shirt. Do you know why? Somebody tells you once a month we have a little fun. Start classes late. We'll daven with the Israelis. But really? I get Pesach, there's a little matzah there. Sukkot, that's kind of cool. You shake this and under that. But Rosh Chodesh, I want to try to figure out with you a meaningfulness of Rosh Chodesh that maybe, just maybe, this week and hopefully weeks and months to follow might be a little more significant. Okay? Shmot Yud Bet, the mitzvah, as it were, of Rosh Chodesh. Yud bet bet, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim, Rishon hu lachem lechodshei Hashana. Nobody takes notes by swiping, I can tell you that much. Didn't I say it's a deep level of disrespect? Why wouldn't that matter? Says God to Aaron and Moshe, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim, Rishon hu lachem lechodshei Hashana. This month should be to you the head of months, the first for you for the months of the year. A textual question you can immediately ask is basically it's saying the same thing twice. This month, i.e. Nisan, on the eve of Yetziat Mitzrayim, this month should be the first of the months. It should be the first for the months of the year. Okay. Maybe with a little flourish, but you're basically saying the same thing. Okay? But leave that for now. Sefer HaChinuch, Mitzvah Dalet, fourth mitzvah of the Torah. Mitzvat Kiddush HaChodesh. Okay, there's a mitzvah to sanctify the month. What is it? Lekadesh Chodashim ule'aber shanim bebeitin gadol bechochma samuch ba'aretz. You got to officially declare a new month in the Beit Din, in, let's say, Yerushalayim. Velikvoa moadei hashana al pi oto kiddush. And then you establish the months. If God says Sukkot has to be Tet Vav Tishrei, then you'll know it because you've just established when Tishrei is. You count 15 and you've got your holiday. So the mitzvah is to establish the month so that you can then have a calendar for your holidays. Shneamar, and what's the source of this mitzvah to sanctify the month? HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim, Klomar, Keshet tir'u chidusha shel levana. When you see the newness of the moon, tikbe'u lachem Rosh Chodesh, you should establish for yourself this new Chodesh, this start of this month. Afilu lo tiruha, but even if you don't see it, even if it's cloudy, it's okay because there's math, and ultimately you should establish it when it could be and or is seen. V'chein tichlal mitzvah zo mitzvat ibor hashana. When we add an extra adar, is also included in this mitzvah. Lefi sheyasod mitzvat kiddush hachodesh kidei sheyasu Yisrael moadei Hashem b'moadam. The only reason we establish the month is to make sure the holidays are at the right time, and you know that Pesach has to be in the spring. So the only way to make sure that Pesach is in the spring is if you, depending on the years, is if you do an Ibor Shana, you add in an extra month. So it's all towards the same goal, making sure that you do the holidays at its right time, and therefore all included in this mitzvah. Ve'ulam milvad zeh hamikra, okay, ba'u ha'arot b'ktuvei Torah, yuro ha'mitzvot ha'ibor, okay. So everybody knows the source for the mitzvah de'oraita of Kiddush HaChodesh, of marking the new moon and establishing therefore the new month, is HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim Rishon hu lachem lechodshei Hashana. And if you didn't know it before, you know it now. No! I get tzitzit because it says tzitzit. I get Shabbat because it says Shabbat. A sukkah, sukkot ta'aseh. The word is there. It's not a big jump to find the mitzvah because God uses that terminology. Where in this pasuk in Shemot does it talk about anything about establishing a new month based on the moon? The context of this pasuk is, on the eve of Yetziat Mitzrayim, God says, make Nisan the beginning of the calendar. And you know what the next psukim are? What they describe in Yud Bet Gimel and through to Kaf Bet or Kaf Hey? It's the Korban Pesach. And many Mefarshim say the Lachem means Aaron and Moshe. There's no eternal, generational thing here. So I want to leave us with a question for now. What does it possibly mean that Chazal decided to make the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh based on this pasuk? Because it's really tenuous at best. Okay? Questions so far? We understand why the seeming redundancy of the pasuk, right? Both sides. 2, why Chazal decided we need to find the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh dafka from this pasuk. Okay? Good? Good. On the other hand, you can't deny the importance of Rosh Chodesh in the Torah. If you look at the next 2 psukim, Bamidbar Yud, when it's talking about Moshe fashioning the silver trumpets, God says, Uvayom simchatchem u'mo'odechem, on your happy days, on your holidays, uveroshei chodshechem, and on your special Rosh Chodesh days. Utkatem bechatzotrot alotechem v'aziv chsemechem v'ayu lechem zikaron l'fnei Elokem ani Hashem Elokechem. They're ranked up there with Chagim and days of Simcha. In the Torah, Rosh Chodesh is like a thing. If you look later in Bamidbar, when it talks about korbanot that you're supposed to bring, Uvroshei chodshechem takrivu olah laHashem parim b'nei bakar. There's a special korban for Rosh Chodesh. So on the one hand, it's really hard to find that Rosh Chodesh is a significant day from the pasuk HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. On the other hand, you can't deny, however, that in the same Torah, Rosh Chodesh is a special day. So what we have to figure out is what is special about Rosh Chodesh. What makes it unique? And therefore, what are we supposed to do with it? How are you supposed to celebrate it? What's the significance of Rosh Chodesh? Second, and I guess a tangential question, how do we know this calendar that we're supposed to follow is lunar? How do we know that it's supposed to follow the moon? There are months that follow the sun also. Chazal said, Rosh Chodeshim, if you're going to establish calendar, it's got to be lunar. Look at the moon. It's not there. And I'll tell you, Paleolithic Europe, which is like really old, had lunar calendars too. I.e., it's not a unique God thing that we would turn around, if God is introducing a new calendar, it must be lunar, because no one's ever done that before. They've done it before. Do Jews use a solar calendar? Yeah. Shabbat. We follow the solar calendar every week. 7 cycles of up and down, it's Shabbat. So a tangential question I want to ask is, how do we know that our Rosh Chodesh, our calendar, is dafka supposed to be based on a lunar model? Because sun is fairly significant in its own right. Okay? A lot of questions? Yeah? When we tie them all together, I think we get good answers. Look, if you would, in the next line there. And this is the korbanot that we were discussing before for Rosh Chodesh. The last line in Pinchas, where it describes the korbanot. V'niskehem, and the libations for this special Rosh Chodesh korban. Chatzi hahin yelapar u'shlishi tahin la'ayil urvi tahin la'keves yain. Zot olat chodesh bechodsho lechodshei hashana. says God, this is the korban for the chodesh bechodsho. Shmuel Aleph, Perek Kaf. There's a little friction between David and Shaul going on. Yehonatan does a little test. Some of us will get there. But it's a Rosh Chodesh feast. David is conspicuously absent to test the waters. And the Navi says, Vayomer lo Yehonatan machar Chodesh. Tomorrow is Chodesh. V'nifkadati ki yipaked moshavecha. What does Yonatan mean when he says machar Chodesh? Machar is what we would call Rosh Chodesh. What does it mean when the Torah says this is the unique korban for Chodesh Bechodsho? It's the unique korban for Rosh Chodesh. So now, what would you say, therefore, is the significance of Rosh Chodesh? What does the Torah say is the focus, is the fundamental core significance of Rosh Chodesh? It's that it's called just Chet Daled Shin Chadash. Chodesh Bechodsho, Machar Chodesh. Don't get lost in the Rosh part. The significance of Rosh Chodesh is the newness that it defines and commemorates. Rosh Chodesh is the beginning of that newness. The mitzvah, we could posit therefore, the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh is significantly marking the beginning of something new, of a renewal, of a change. Does that make sense? Okay? Rosh Chodesh is about the day when we say, there's something new. There's a change. So now answer the question. How do we know that the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh is to have a calendar based on a lunar cycle as opposed to a solar one? Because a moon is the only thing that cycles. You can watch the moon wax and wane. It's this big, and then this big, and then this big, and then this big, and then nothing, and it's not. Of course, our calendar is based on the moon because only the moon has a newness. Ein, as you see in that pasuk from Kohelet, Ein kol chadash tachat hashemesh. The sun, it's constant. The moon has cycles. So now, what would you say is the mitzvah of celebrating Rosh Chodesh? What are you supposed to be doing? Hallel, great. Special breakfast, amazing. But what's the command? What are you supposed to be doing on Rosh Chodesh? You're supposed to mark a newness in your life. You're supposed to mark a significant change, a significant beginning of a development and an opportunity to develop. It's when we turn around and say, here's another opportunity to start again just like the moon is. And let's make a holiday to make sure we are always significantly marking that opportunity. Just like the moon begins again on this day, Rosh of Chadash, so too we have the opportunity, and if we do Rosh Chodesh right, we take that opportunity to do so. You can't, however, ignore Chazal. It's not a good thing to do. And Chazal said that this mitzvah of newness is based on this pasuk, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. We found already 3 or 4 better psukim. So if we're not in the habit of ignoring Chazal, what is it about that pasuk that brilliantly becomes a source to enhance our understanding of this mitzvah as we know it? Okay? Look at Ramban. Okay, this is the Ramban on Shmot, Yud Bet, Bet. Okay? HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. Says Ramban, V'tam HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. What do you do with the first phrase? The command is, Sheyimnu Oto Yisrael Chodesh Harishon. That we start counting from Nisan as the first month. Umimenu, and from that month, Yimnu Kol HaChodashim, Sheni Veshlishi, Ad Tashlum HaShana Bishneim Asar Chodesh. The mitzvah deoraita of HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim is to ensure that Nisan starts the calendar rolling. Okay. Why? Kedei sheyeh zichron b'nes gadol. This system of counting, this calendar equation, is there to actualize a remembering tool of a great, tremendous miracle. Ki bechol et shenaskir hachodashim yeh hanes niskar. Because if you do this right and you start Nisan as the first month, you're always going to be referencing the miracle of Yetziat Mitzrayim. I am flying on the 7th month. Once you say 7th, what does that inherently reference? The first. Says Ramban, Ve'alkein ein lachodashim shem b'Torah. That's why our months don't have names in the Torah. Elo yomar b'chodesh hashlishi. Ve'omer vayhi b'shana hashinit b'chodesh hasheni na'aleh ha'anan. U'v'chodesh hashvi'i b'echad lachodesh. V'chein kulam. Make Nisan the first month. And don't give the names to months, so that when you say this milk expires in the 4th month, you are automatically saying, oh, the 4th month from the 1st month. Oh, this 1st month when we had Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's a brilliant calendar that's a built-in tool to never forget where it all began. וכמו שתהיה הסחירה ביום השבת, בנותינו ממנו אחד בשבת ושני בשבת. If you say like Shir Shel Yom, right? It's not Sunday and Monday. It's Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi. Shlishi, oh, from Shabbat. And we have a constant remembrance weekly of Shabbat. כך הסחירה ביציאת מצרים. בנותינו החודש הראשון והחודש השני והשלישי לגאולתנו. Now look at the second to last line. I'll skip the piece in between. Right, the 2 words from the end of the penultimate line. V'zetam, that's so good. Rishon hu lachem. That's why the second half of the pasuk says Rishon hu lachem. She'einenu rishon v'shana, aval hu rishon lachem, shnikra lo lezichron gulatenu. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. That's the command to make Nisan first on the calendar. Rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana is not repeating the same. Rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana, you have to call that month Rishon. And therefore, those phrases are not redundant. You get it? HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. Make Nisan first. And what should you call it? Rishon hu lachem. Call it Rishon. So that forevermore, every time you have a date anywhere in the calendar, you're always going to remember the Geulah of Mitzrayim. So far? So clear? Now watch this. Ukvar hiskiru rabotenu ze ha'inyan. The rabbis had already covered this. Ve'amru, shmot chodashim alu imanu mi Bavel. Because maybe in the back of your mind you're thinking, but wait a second. We just celebrated Tetvav Betishrei. Purim is in Adar. We're about to have Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan. And you're thinking, that's terrible, because God said not to give it names, because it's always a reference to the first. And you're thinking, how can we possibly do that? Maybe you're not, but maybe now you are. Watch this. Says Ramban, Ki mitchila lo hayu lahem shemot etzleinu. We know that in the beginning, originally, months did not have names, they had numbers, as we explained. Ki mitchila haya minyanam zechel etziat Mitzrayim. Because we always wanted to number numerically, reference back to that first month, Geulah from Yetziat Mitzrayim. Aval, ka'asher alinu mi Bavel, when we had a second galut, a galut Bavel, and we had a second Geulah from Bavel, v'nitkaye ma she'amar hakatuv, as Yirmiyahu said, lo yomar od, Chai Hashem, Asher He'eleh et Bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. When God takes you out of Bavel, Yirmiyahu says to Bnei Yisrael, we're not going to call him, long live the God who took us out of Mitzrayim anymore. Ki im Chai Hashem Asher He'eleh v'Asher Hevi et Bnei Yisrael me'eretz Tzafon. There's a new God in town, and he's the one that took us out of Bavel. We got to update our Geulah. Chazarnu likro hachodashim b'shem shnikraim be'eretz Bavel. So for now on, you don't say 1, 2, and 3 in referencing back to Yetziat Mitzrayim. You say Tishrei, Cheshvan, Adar to reference back to Bavel. So you remember that Geulah. And I'm just going to throw something out here. I was in yeshiva for a while. And every so often there was like a movement to try to stop with the January and February, those Roman god names, and bring it back to the essence. They usually said Tishrei and Cheshvan, but Chamishi, Shishi. And you know what I was thinking as an Oleh? Oh no. For me, there was a third Geulah, and that's the modern day Chutz La'aretz. And if they use January and February and March, I dafka want to use January and February and March while I'm here, because then I'm going to remember Chai Hashem that took me out of Chutz La'aretz and brought me here. Okay? Now, Chazal decided to amalgamate the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh to the pasuk of HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, which means, now that we've learned some stuff together, we have the mitzvah to commemorate, to demarcate newness, renewal, and the opportunity to develop Rosh Chodesh with the mitzvah of establishing our calendar based on our brilliant landmarks of history. Chazal decided those two things need to be synthesized. They need to be amalgamated. And you know what I think Chazal was brilliantly doing? Because it's not merely about we as individuals who need to demarcate Rosh Chodesh, our system of living, as opportunities to renew, to try again. But it's actually our national entity. When we left Mitzrayim and we were created as a nation, we became a nation of ones who demarcate the eternal opportunity to renew, to develop, to advance, and to progress. We're a nation of Rosh Chodesh. Chazal didn't really need to get Rosh Chodesh from this pasuk, but they needed to get it from that pasuk because they didn't want us to just see it as something we do. It's something that we are. We are a nation defined as the opportunity to ever refurbish, ever reflect, ever self-introspect, and forever to develop anew. We are a nation of a new moon. We are a nation that was created at that new moon, and we are a nation that forever keep it as a mitzvah. That's who we are as a people. We are not stagnant. We're not allowed to just say, this is the way it is. Our very nature, our very being is always looking to say, where can we go now? Just now we started a new year. We also just now started a new cycle of reading the Torah. This week we're going to start and read about Noach starting a new world. We are going to start a new month this week. And you know what God taught us about all of those news? Don't think for a second the new year is just doing what we did in the old year and seeing if we can tweak. It's like it was before. Let's see if we can add something new. Don't think that when you're reading the Torah, again, for the umpteenth time, oh, here we go again, Parshat Noach. It's not. It's the asiyah of creation. You may be doing the same Torah again, but you have to approach it as a totally new opportunity to see the Torah in a totally different way. Don't just have another Rosh Chodesh this week. Understand it as an opportunity of totally new. It's not the same kitchen. It's not the same dishes. It's not the same recipe. We're at a moment in our lives, this Rosh Hashanah, this new cycle, Shmini Atzeret, this new month, this new world, everything about this moment is a confluence of new. And if you learn anything from how God instructed Noach to build the Teva, then you understand exactly the opportunity that's being presented to you. Don't look back and say, well, what did I do last time? Enough! Start afresh. Start anew. A different kitchen, a different frame of mind, a different recipe, a different schedule. Because there's one other new that you people are experiencing, and that's also a new Zman. And I have to tell you, I don't want you to look back in Elul and just say, well, I did this. Oh, it's the same class I'm in. We'll just continue. Oh, we're learning Parsha, so we'll just continue with the Parsha. Oh, another mitzvah, another line of Gemara. You know what the new Zman has to mean to you? It has to mean what the new year, what the new world, what the new month means to you. It has to be a total reset, an understanding of the opportunity to be great, to be amazing, to not be held back by, well, it's just sort of adding to. You're not putting a new fresh coat of paint on your fence. You're ripping out the old fence and putting in a better one because you can. You need to take advantage of the newness. It's not just a continuation on a new piece of the calendar. It's the Teva all over again. It's the new world all over again. It's your new month. Take the opportunity. Mark it. Use Rosh Chodesh to say, this is my opportunity to do great things. Use this man as an opportunity to do great things. Have a wonderful evening.